Hi, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lumière Startup Saturday. We are on season 2, episode 7, with Dr. Shilpa Datar, who is the founder of Swayam Assessment becomes Swayam Analytics now in the last 4 years, and a long practicing counseling psychologist, assessor, who has her PhD in psychometric test development and counseling psychology. So, welcome, Dr. Shilpa Datar, and thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today, Deepa. And I'm completely bowled over and honored that you think that, I could be a part of your illustrious group. The number of people that you have interviewed, the kind of people that you have on board is amazing. And I'm really very happy to be here with you today.
Thank you so much. So, tell us, how did Swayam come to be, and your interest in Indian psychology and Vedic Indic psychology, which is on which you base your model. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about it and how you came to develop that.
Sure. So this was in the late 90s, about 97 or 98, and when my child was identified as being dyslexic. And obviously, we had no information about what dyslexia even is at that point of time. And the school wanted us to move them to a special needs school. And as a parent, I refused because obviously, I'm sure that you know, in India, the minute you say you put a child into a special needs school, they don't have access to a good education or a career. And I was not ready to do that to my child, and I said no, they're going to continue in the same school, and then they continued. But I started working in a special needs school, and that's when I realized that all the tests that were being used were all foreign tests, and none of them were relevant to the Indian audience. They had not been standardized for an Indian psyche and an audience. And I realized, and as adults, as administrators of the test, we found it difficult to understand some of the questions because there are some people who would have transliterated the test. Okay,
Ah,
even though it's from English itself, so the language is from US English or British English. When you transliterate it, the meaning completely changes. Correct? You have to translate the test because I'm sure you know the kind of language that we use today when we go to the US or when we go to Europe or even in India is very different. The connotations are very different.
very
Yeah.
different.
So, but when you're using it in psychology to assess a child and then categorize them as being special needs, disabled, that, this, and everything, it becomes very, very dramatically very different. And I felt that this was a big disaster in the making because
Uh-huh.
as adults, if we can't understand, then the children obviously can't understand.
Right, right.
So that's when I realized that I wanted to work in that area, but I didn't want to develop tests. I wanted to see how I can help these children at a younger age to overcome their, problems and issues. But then I didn't want to restrict it to, I live in Bangalore, so have a test that is relevant only for Bangalore, only South India. That was not the intention. So, and then I went on to do my master's in psychology. And by then I realized that, American psychology is pushed down our throat as being the psychology of the world,
Yes, so true. Mm.
which is not true. And I was very disillusioned with that because if you look at Jung and Freud, they've studied people, they've done tremendous amount of work, but they've studied people who came into the clinical setting. And then they said if these are people with issues, then people without these issues are the normal. And I take very serious exception to that. Absence of a disease doesn't mean that I am completely healthy, whether in the body or the mind. So then I looked around and I said, what else is there? How can I do something that's more holistic, that's more wholesome, and that which can be used by people across the world to assess? Because if you look at the hard sciences of physics, chemistry, mathematics, they are universal laws,
Yeah,
right? You don't have a French physics and an Indian chemistry and things like that.
so true.
Not the same. So, and I felt that if we don't have that for psychology, then we are really doing a huge injustice to people around them. And then I came across the Pancha Mahabhuta theory, which is very, very prevalent in the Indian context. So I went and I also realized by then that, I was hoping that I'd be able to find something in the Indian medical tradition, which is Ayurveda and yoga, because they date back millennia and they are
Yeah,
living traditions and they
correct.
work. Correct. So I started studying them, and I realized that this Pancha Mahabhuta theory had its roots in Sankhya philosophy. So entire Ayurveda and yoga is based on Sankhya.
Correct.
I is atheistic. So I went on to study the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Ayurveda, Yoga, Sankhya, of course, the Puranas. And then I imported those concepts of manas, behavior, psyche, prakriti, personality into the
Very
domain of
nice.
psychology, and then built tests to around that. And this was
Okay.
my PhD work at Regional Institute of Education, which is NCRT, that comes under the ambit of Mysore University.
Okay.
I
Okay.
went on to publish more than 18 scientific papers in international journals. And because of the very stringent methodology that I had adopted, my
Yes.
PhD guide was a stringent taskmaster. But I'm very grateful to him that he pushed me to that because
Who was your PhD guide, out of curiosity?
one Dr. C.G. Venkatesh Murthy. He went on to become the dean of the university of RIE and all that stuff. Extremely nice gentleman and a thorough gentleman. And he gave me the complete liberty to do exactly what I wanted to do. He didn't restrict me and say no, you can't do this because that's not my area of interest and things like that, which becomes very limiting for a PhD student, which is
Yeah.
the case, which is more which is very normal you
Yeah.
know so, and because of the very stringent methodology I adopted, the tests are being used in multiple countries, and that was another feather in my cap. So it's being
Wonderful.
used in the US to identify people at risk of committing economic fraud. It's being used in Germany in integrative medicine universities,
Mm.
you know, and in India in multiple AAA rated universities. Obviously, I can't name them.
Sure.
So, and then I went on to, I felt that if by then my child graduated as a lawyer. I have two children, both of them are lawyers. Yeah, thank you very much. That was a huge personal success for me, massive. So then I felt very validated, that my belief in my child did not was not wrong, and if I could do this for one child, I could do it for a million other children, right? It is with that intention, and I'm a very very pragmatic person. I didn't want the amount of work that I put into my PhD was like crazy. So I didn't want that work to just sit in a library doing nothing but gathering dust. I said, how can I use it in the world to make people's lives better? So I built that into a software. So we have an algorithm driven software. We have multiple IPs on the work. We have a patent. Patent is yet to be granted, 8 copyrights, 3 trademarks, and all that stuff. And then we are working now with in the both corporate as well as education sector. We
Okay.
are also partnered with Government of Karnataka on their Skill Connect platform. So
Oh.
we are working in multiple areas now, and that's been my journey.
And your thrust now is children with disabilities or people in corporates, or how do you, if you had to tell me the how the pie looks like in terms of your target group that you're trying to, or the different stakeholders, how is it?
Yeah. So till now, we've been working with normal, so-called normal, regular school children, high school children for career guidance because that's been a enduring interest area for me, and we're very passionate about it. Secondly, we also started working with corporates because that was a natural progression for us to do the psychometric assessment and behavioral assessment for job seekers, for recruitment as well as for employee development. So we have multiple marquee clients over there. But then, I felt that because the entire journey started because I wanted to do something for special needs children, right? So last year we launched a research project in collaboration with Christ University and Professor Prakash Padakanya, who is a expert in dyslexia. So this was to standardize psychometric assessments for children with dyslexia to give them career guidance. So we have developed that, we have standardized it. We just completed all the analysis, the statistical analysis, completed the data collection and everything. We're just sending out all the reports to the students who participate in the study from today. So I came back to that, and we have just completed that. So we are the first career guidance provider for children with special needs in India.
And you keep a focus to dyslexia, or it could also be autism, it could be other.
Combined dyslexia and autism. Dyslexia,
Okay.
LD, and autism. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. As a mother of a child who is dyslexic with high IQ, I completely relate to what you're talking about. And
Oh, I see. What a common factor.
yes,
How unintentional.
so
I mean, what this is
what are the
completely.
odds? So my
Yes.
that's my daughter, and my son is a lawyer. So again, we have something in common there. So we'll talk
Okay.
separately. Nothing is by
Absolutely.
chance. Nothing is
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
chance.
Correct.
So, you up until 4 years ago, everything that you did was pen and paper, and then you moved everything to the and brought in the analytics and created Swayam Analytics. So, possibly this transition called for people in your team to join new people, new talent. And sort of how did the organization transform, and where are you right now in this journey?
Yeah. So before becoming a company, we were existing as a sole proprietary concern, and I felt that that was very delimiting because most companies are not ready to work with sole proprietary concern
Yeah,
because of all these regulatory
correct.
requirements and everything. So with that in mind, I converted it to a private limited company. So we have three directors now, and then we have a few employees. We have a psychologist. We also have senior psychologists on call when
Okay.
the reason demands it.
Yeah.
We have an admin person. We have our own tech team. So we have about 7, 8 people in the startup, and we are a very small, very tightly driven startup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of your customers, these are people you have a B2B focus and some kind of retail B2C clients as well, people who come to you directly as standalone parents or families, or does it primarily be driven through the school system and the corporates, Shilpa?
We are primarily B2B. We prefer to work with corporates and with schools, school chain
Yeah.
schools and all that. But we have also, on the website, we also encourage individual parents, students, however it may be, to log in and, buy the test and take it. So, but our B2C focus is very, very minimal, less than 1% of our work, of our complete revenues, I can say. We also encourage, I mean, friends and family, they reach out constantly, and then we're happy to support them. And then they want to suggest us to their own families and everything, and we work in that way. Principally, we are a B2B organization.
Okay. And that was by intent, by design, Shilpa?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because
Okay.
we're bootstrapped. We have received a small Startup India seed fund, but then we are completely bootstrapped other than that. So, bootstrapping with B2C becomes very difficult. Marketing, and you need very deep pockets for marketing and all that. So, that becomes a challenge for us. I'm trying to see how far I can maintain without having to raise funds.
And why is that? Why are you holding back from raising funds, Shilpa?
I think basically it's an old school kind of a thing because essentially raising funds is taking a loan, right? So I'm not very much in favor of taking loans. I believe that our work should be sustainable, that we should be able to, whether we take a VC money or not, first is that we should have a sustainable business. If we don't have a sustainable business, there's no point in taking money and burning up other people's money. And at the end of the day, we are held responsible for it, right? And I feel that when we don't have a proper business model, when we're able to scale up that dramatically, taking funds and ridding people of their money might not be the right way. See, I read the Bhagavata every day and all that stuff, right? So that kind of conscience kind of a thing that pricks me a lot. I cannot, if I cannot blow my own money, I'm not going to blow somebody else's money. So it's that kind of, it may be a kind of rigidity, I don't know, but I feel very responsible if I'm taking something from somebody. And unless I can prove that it's being done properly, and I can commit, saying that yes, this is going to become $1 billion, whatever dollar startup, whatever it is, I don't think it makes sense for me to take money from somebody else. It's
And
just that
what is your, sorry, go on, go on.
that's fine. It's just that principle that uh,
Yeah.
we might have to. Having said this, tomorrow I might have to raise funds. I don't know. I hope.
Life will throw that challenge at you when you need it.
Absolutely. The minute you say I don't want this, that comes to you. You know, the life will say, okay, now you said this, no, you take it. So I'm very careful about that.
So lovely. Also, what is your the vision when you started Swayam Analytics? Do you remember that day when you said, "I'm going to call it Swayam"? You chose the name Swayam for a reason. Why was that?
Because in the Bhagavad Gita also, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that we have to uplift ourselves by ourselves. It's a slightly different context, but then that's the whole thing. And then you can't really depend upon somebody else all your life. You need to be able to know who you are, what your strengths are, and then take it forward. Of course, you'll get support, but not all your life. No? At one point of time, you should say, yes, I'm going to take it forward. I don't need this kind of support. Like how we do for a child. When the child is born, we are carrying them, we feed them, we clean them, everything we do for them. But then will we do that lifelong? We won't do that, right? So in
Yeah.
that way, that's the whole point.
So like learn to be self-resilient,
Self
help yourself, lift up
help
yourself by
yourself,
yourself.
yeah. We are there to help you. So it's something that, and this is something that we are trying to hold a mirror to your mind, right? To your
Right.
own self. So in many different ways it becomes about yourself. So that's why we thought Swayam is a very apt word. In fact, my son chose it.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. There's another psychologist we've interviewed who's written a book again, Swayam 365. How do you look after yourself 365 days?
Oh,
It's one of
lovely.
the bestsellers, yeah. So
Okay.
So, tell me, when you look at working with government, working with corporates, and working with education, what are certain tips that you want to give our, startup, the viewers who are looking B2B and working with these? Is there something you want to tell on, what are some typical do's and don'ts that you should look at when you're, let's say, dealing with corporate, a kind of corporate? Maybe we can take that up.
Huh.
Dealing with schools, different types of schools, what is it that you have deprioritized, what is it that you have focused through experience, and now your wisdom you can share. And thirdly, with government bodies. So you want to take that as the last module, Shilpa?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll focus on the government one because it's going to be quick. Government is very difficult to work with. They have very, very long cycles, and you should be really prepared to go the long way. It can take up to year, 2.5 year, 2 years, and all that stuff. And you need to have one dedicated person who's going to be interacting with, one spock from the government also. You need to figure out, what your new changes are going to be and that kind of a thing. So it's really very difficult to work with the government. So having said that, if you're able to crack the deal, then there's nothing like it. So it's a good area, also good focus area for you to work with. And you need to have all your compliances, all your paperwork in order because they ask for like hazard documents and it's simply crazy. You'll go crazy with it. So that's just one piece. And if you have that kind of time and resources, then go for it. Otherwise, it would be wiser to focus on, other areas, the private area, because at least your cycles are definitely much faster than the government cycle. So then to look at corporates again is also a long drawn out battle because it'll take a minimum of 6 to 4, at least for us, it's taken about 6 to 7 months for us to close one deal. Yeah. And then again, there are, if it's like a GCC or something, then they also have a lot of documentation, you need to have one, advocate on call with you so that you can sort out through all the clauses and everything. Because, if you sign some clause without knowing, then you're done for. You can just shut shop and then quit. It's
Yeah.
that drastic. Yeah.
Yes.
So unless you have a really, really good lawyer, corporate lawyer by your side,
Yeah.
and you're ready to have deep pockets again, because they don't come cheap.
Yeah.
And if you ask for a cut in everything, then that doesn't work. So they're not going to do that for you. So
Shilpa,
then
last
that
30 seconds, huh?
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, sure. So that becomes very difficult. So, but then it's a good area to work with. And then the last one, the students, the educational institution is also very difficult to crack. But then once you're able to crack it, it's a repetitive business. So again, all three of them are good if you're able to crack it.
Yeah,
That's
and the
been my
patience. So
yes,
being very
long.
ethical and transparent, being very good with what you do,
Yeah,
delivering with great intention, doing
yeah,
things the right way. I think that's
yeah.
what you're doing, and
And a
looking at
great
life.
product which really helps the people that you're targeting. Without that, it's not going to go anywhere.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching Shilpa Datar. And please visit her website and all of the other things we'll put in the links below. And thank you so much, Shilpa, for making time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepa. It's been lovely talking to you.
Bye bye.